Really? I mean, page 74. What?
Or
at least you're good.
Oh, good.
You didn't, but.
Someone to zoom out, man.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, September 4th meeting, special meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller,
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson,
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels,
Present.
Commissioner Ken Rovinsky,
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder,
Present.
and Commissioner Kelsey Lutzo. Is absolutely excused. Okay, all right. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Thursday, September 4th, 2025 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rovinsky, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to there was no minutes.
No, we skipped them.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on
That's
autopilot.
okay.
Yeah. All right, moving on to regular business then, okay. All right. And we are starting with a public hearing, and this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda item. We invite your comments and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearings, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on a request to adopt the Go Big Green Bay 2050 Comprehensive Plan submitted by the Green Bay Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll just give a real quick update. I know you all know this already. But we started this exercise in October of 2023. Started with a lot of public input, over 18 months of outreach, background data check, background data gathering, and kind of to create the comp plan, which I know you all know, but for the benefit of anybody else, comprehensive plan is sort of like a master plan for the growth and management of a city. They are just required by state statute for every community over 10,000 people. They lay out requirements for transportation, economic development, housing, and a lot of other elements. There's 9 actual elements, including intergovernmental cooperation and implementation. So we have been gathering data for those 18 months. Our consultants, who I'll introduce here, is Josh and Jacob with Hosea Levine. We also utilized Altogether, which was a marketing and public engagement firm in our efforts. And we have come up with a draft document. So the documents that are on your table and that were sent online are the draft document itself. It does provide a framework for the growth and for regulatory tools the city can use to achieve the objectives in the plan. And I'll just kind of leave it with that. After the public hearing is finished, Josh will have a more in-depth presentation, and then we can go over some of the recommendations. So what you have in front of you is a copy of the plan. This large document with just about 13 pages spreadsheet are the actual recommendations out of the plan. And then there's sort of this little 2-page sheet that it was staff deemed are the most impactful recommendations coming out of the plan itself. And Josh will go over those in the presentation as well. Then you have this little document, which I haven't even gone over yet. But we had a public open house last night at the training center, the Water Utility Training Center, and we received about 30 comments, and these are the comments. I have not gone over them yet, but I wanted to share. So there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Please come and state your name and address for the record. and limit comments to 3 minutes.
Thanks, Paul Busher, 1120 Elizabeth. I'm not with a lobbying firm or anything. In order to plan the city, you have to kind of know where the downtown is, and basically, there's the two main bridges downtown. And Mason Street is a void downtown bridge. If you want to like, a long-term plan, let's say you're having a 200-year plan rather than a 50-year plan. You want a bigger downtown, so putting a bridge like at Port Lear would like double the size of the downtown. And then Mason Street could be more of a, like a tunnel, where tunnels will last hundreds of years. And there's a lot of advantages to tunnels, so if your base is the downtown, doubling the size of the downtown might be helpful. And if you want to open up the grid pattern downtown, which is why they wanted to adjust the Mason Street Bridge, having a low bridge is just going to be all traffic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Go ahead.
Good evening, Frank Torres, 1490 Capitol Drive. Speaking in support of the plan. I thought it was I think it's very well put together, and I hope to see all you move forward with it. And I don't think anything else has to be said.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. I will also note for the record that Commissioner Lutzow is now present. Moving on then to item number 2. Which is consideration with possible action on a request to adopt the Go Big Green Bay 2050 comprehensive plan submitted by the Green Bay Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I'm just gonna, Josh Kuntz is our lead consultant with Jose Levine, and he's gonna go over kind of where we are now and the majority elements of the plan, and then we can kind of get into those impactful recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Like David said, my name is Josh Kuntz. I'm with House Levine. House Levine is the lead consulting firm on this project. As David mentioned, we work with all together as well to do a program of outreach that was pretty expansive, far beyond what House Levine could do alone. And a lot of credit goes to the staff team here for all the outreach that they did as well. I think David said it very well, what a comprehensive plan is and what the point of this whole document is. One of the ways that House Levine always likes to, in sort of a bite-sized statement, what their comprehensive plan is. It's called a blueprint, it's called a roadmap, it's called all these different things, but at its core, it's a foundation for decision making. So whether you're an elected or appointed official, very importantly for those of you in this room who are appointed to the Plan Commission, or even a resident or a homeowner, someone looking to purchase your first home in the community, someone looking to put down roots and establish a business. This should be that policy document that says, here's the direction in 2025 when this was adopted, that the city saw us going over the next couple of decades. And we have fair certainty, thanks to this plan, we all can kind of get behind this. This isn't any one single person's vision. This is a collective vision that went through, like David mentioned, an 18-month planning process that included extensive and very comprehensive community outreach. And I think what we have today, still in its near final draft form, but still in draft with opportunities to revise, is truly a foundation for decision making for land use growth and development and a lot of other things for Green Bay for the next couple of decades. So speaking on behalf of House Levine, and I think I can say for all together as well, we're very proud of the work that we did as a team with staff. And there really was a constructive process and a collaborative process, and one that has a huge amount of community input. So you know that this isn't just throwing darts at a dartboard and in a vacuum. There's a lot of public input, professional input, and leadership input that went into this document. So a brief, oh. Sharing paused 1 second. A brief agenda for this part of the meeting. Just want to give you a little update on the project status, a little bit of background on how we got to this point and what we did. And an overview of the draft comprehensive plan. There's a lot in there, so I'm not going to try to go word by word, but please stop me if we get to a section that you had questions about or anything that you want to discuss. Happy to do that. And then we'll touch on next steps. So project status, we worked through a 7-step process with a whole bunch of subtasks. We've started with project kickoff, a kickoff engagement that included a program of key stakeholder interviews, preparing an existing conditions memorandum, which was reviewed by all of you, a visioning workshop, a variety of outreach tools and activities, and we are here finally now in step 7, comprehensive plan document ready for adoption. Touching on that overall community engagement process, again, all credit to All Together and to the staff team for getting out in the community and bringing outreach and engagement to people all over the city in a way that not every city is able to do, and not every city does so well as was done here. So across all these different formats that you see in the screen, from project kickoff to the advisory group meetings to the key stakeholder interviews, do-it-yourself workshop kits, community visioning workshop, a ton of pop-up events and activities taking the outreach program to people on the ground. We did sort of a little back of the napkin math, and you're well over 2,500 plus points of engagement. Acknowledging that, of course, some people may have participated in all of these. A lot of people probably just didn't want, felt that was their opportunity to weigh in. But that's a big number for any community. So it's something that the team can be proud of here. And you do start to see connecting themes, consistency from the different feedback, and even consistency with some of the support that we heard last night. Open house. The plan has been up on the project website for most of this past month. There's a project website comment box, very simple way for anyone in the community to drop a comment online. You can leave your comment, and as soon as you leave it, hit send. The comment box will repopulate, and if you decide you want to leave another one, you can leave another one. And we do that very simple comment box approach, which really replicates people's ability to just drop a comment card like you would in an open house. And then if you think of something else, it's not too late, just do another one. So those comments, I believe, are in front of you. Between the online comment box and the in-person comment box last night, there was a total of 29 comments online and in person. Written comments. Some of them touch on more than one topic. We had a well-attended open house last night. There was a variety of comments that we received. I think 9 written one, but some longer than others. People touched on things like transportation improvements, passenger rail service, need for more affordable daycare. So just a variety of comments. Some of them I think are already addressed in the plan. Some may be considerations for a minor touch up here in the document based on what we heard. But it was a good turnout. 50 plus people were out to talk about the plan, and it was nice talking to everybody at the end of the process. So I guess any questions before I move on about the process or everything that we did as part of this developer stuff?
Well, if I can add one thing, well, it's kind of casual, and you should jump in, right? What came out of this plan, the recommendations are truly from the public. These aren't Josh and I sitting on the phone and jotting it down ourselves, and, you know, Jacob coming up with them off the top of his head. These came from that public outreach. So I just want that to make that from.
Although we did spend some time on the phone.
We did,
Uh,
Don't need it to be edited a little, but.
On Teams or Zoom, whatever. So what we have now is a document that's structured into 8 chapters, from introduction through implementation. And David mentioned the required Wisconsin statutes, so, the statutes identify that the plan must address elements. It doesn't say that each element wants to be a chapter. In some cases, like the land use element, there is a land use and development chapter. Economic development element and housing element, in this particular plan, we structured those as subsections of the land use chapter. The utilities, community, facilities element, you can see we have a facilities and infrastructure chapter. Agricultural and cultural resources, the agricultural stuff is sort of, you'll find that touched on in land use, in some of the personality, the eastern personality or districts. Cultural resources is sort of threaded throughout. There's different touch points from the historic resources and some of the community events and activities. Those are covered. There's different ways to address these elements, and we'll try to address them in a way that was organic and natural and flowed well with this document, putting things where they fit best. And then, like David mentioned, there is an implementation element that also contains that intergovernmental cooperation that's required in the state of Wisconsin. So even with all these different elements and a variety of chapters, I should have mentioned this up front, we did have a directive from day one when we were even here to interview that this was to be a more concise document, a direct document written in plain English that anybody could understand. You'll see our approach to clearly articulating the recommendations in a green call out box and bulleting them right out so that you're not hunting around in the text for recommendations. We hope and our aim was that any of the maps and graphics and charts in this document are easy to read. You don't have to be a planner or land use attorney to pick up this document and get a sense of where the community wants to go. And that was something that the staff team really pressed on us along the way as well. So first up, the land use and development chapter of the plan. This is the core piece of any comprehensive plan or community-wide long-range plan in any state in the country. There is a future land use element to this with a set of future land use definitions. So you can see you have a couple pages of explanatory definitions. What's the policy for these different areas? And then that pairs with the centerpiece of the plan, which is the future land use map. So again, this is a policy guide map. When you see colors on a map, some people immediately go to zoning, but this is a guide that articulates, in a Green Bay 2050 and a 2-decade build out scenario, what would be the ideal future land uses overall across our community. Some of them reflect what's on the ground in our team's fieldwork and reconnaissance. Some of this reflects anticipated areas of change or areas that are known that are sort of established over the next couple of decades and are probably not going to change that much unless something unexpected happens. So again, future land use, core piece of the plan. In subsections of the land use and development chapter, we have the housing and neighborhood section. And you'll see policy language again, in the chapter, the policy language is typically on the white part of the page. So things like housing diversity impacts, supporting charts and graphics. And then when you get to the recommendations, it's called out in a green box. So it's very easy to find and to understand. So here you have some recommendations for housing diversity and where we felt that an illustration was important. You have a diagram that's specific to Green Bay that shows what that could look like on a typical city block or something like that. We got a lot of good data from the city, so things like a map of your neighborhood associations, very important to reflect the fact that this really is a city of a variety of neighborhoods. And that's a fun thing to reflect and then to offer recommendations on in the document. There's a section on the potential for improving the design guidelines. flood regulations, resilience in the neighborhoods. And a few of the big ideas that we discussed with David and the team for housing in neighborhoods. And correct me if I'm wrong, David, the focus on the big ideas and some of the ones that we pulled out here is maybe a bit of an expansion on the city's previous plan or a new idea or a pivot from the city's previous plan that we want to just emphasize here.
Right.
So this isn't every recommendation, just a couple of things that you'll find in the housing and neighborhoods chapter. So facilitating missing middle housing, and we'll explain what that is from the plan document. So more housing types throughout the city, all types of housing on available lots, consolidated lots. And this gets at the idea of interspersing a variety of housing types. One of the things you'll see even in the first land use definition is in the definition of low density residential. It's not just sort of the old fashioned Euclidean approach. These neighborhoods are all going to be just standalone single family homes. The gentleman earlier mentioned the city on a grid. You have a traditional neighborhood development pattern. And even in your lowest density residential category, it acknowledges that there will be, as there historically were, some duplexes, townhomes, perhaps even some corner commercial might be appropriate. And that's a slightly different approach from historic planning, even across the country. An expansion of mixed use areas, so residential above ground floor, commercial. A focus on creating and implementing design guidelines, particularly along the waterfront and in some of the historic districts. An overall emphasis on better connectivity between neighborhoods. And something that's very pertinent here is working on getting a handle on those short-term rentals. Any questions about the land use and development section so far, or the housing neighborhoods section, subsection of that? Okay, another bother me.
Sorry. I know.
Okay, economic development, another subsection of land use and development. The focus here on workforce, on energy initiatives, acknowledging how some of these economic land uses are evolving in the day of online shopping and an increased emphasis on retail experiences, not just going to buy your everyday goods. Covered the Port of Green Bay and these shipping routes. This is still a very active industrial port city. Commercial corridor revitalization. So you can see a Green Bay specific diagram. You see some of these aging corridors and discussion of how that could be revitalized paired with specific recommendations. I should mention that some of these red orange boxes that you see here, those are call outs for key planning concepts or for things that we discussed. That's another, I think, I think it's a user-friendly approach to identify the things on the page so that you're not hunting around for adaptive reuse or missing middle housing. If you do see a term that maybe in the past would have been, you'd have to leaf back to the glossary. We try to define it on the page where the content is. So it's almost more like should feel more like a magazine approach, that you're not hunting around and feeling like you're reading a plain textbook when we look at this document. Transit-oriented development, so development in proximity to your established transit lines. So that these metro lines change, but the concept here is to consider some of these corridors that are served by transit. Sure, yes, sir.
I got a question and it's related to this map and it's related to later on. We 49. It's a bus route. The far east, the far right side of that drawing is slated for new development. And there's currently a lot of apartments being built way in the far east side.
I do have that map on the screen here. Let's get to it. I will have it later, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so when I saw this, my concern is I'm the alder on the far east side, so I kind of looked at that a little bit more in detail, but I looked at the whole thing. And by the way, I think it's a great document. But there's a lot of building and development on the very far southeast side and east side. And yet there's no corridor where we see transit oriented development going out like Basin Street. So I don't know if that's premature or in the works, or maybe it's addressed somewhere else, but I definitely see a need to go east with the bus transit in the future and within the next 25 years.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. For this graphic, at least, we looked at the established and existing lines.
Existing, okay.
But
Well,
and,
let me hold it until page 40, whatever it is.
well, but to, one thing I just put in, and we didn't see what staff thinks too here, but to address what you're talking about. You could acknowledge that as development occurs, you would want, that could be very well referenced here. I think it's. You could probably make an educated guess what roads those
Sure.
transit lines might,
Even if it's just a
stand
bullet or something that recognizes,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of development, a lot of housing, and maybe extending down Mason Street, whatever.
yeah, it's similar to, when you know that residential growth is gonna occur outward, you
Yeah.
know there's probably gonna be a new school, you might not know exactly where it's gonna be yet,
Right.
but anticipating new educational facilities as development grows, we could anticipate new
Okay.
growth. So I think we can
Okay,
address that.
fine, that's fine.
We just want to make sure we don't want to step on the metro's toes in terms of like drawing a route for them, but.
Yeah, I can comment on that. Metro had a lot of comments that they didn't want us messing with their routes or anything. And they're kind of going on a goal now of transit on demand is their big item. So it's not fixed roads, it's all,
Oh,
that little bit comes and gets you.
oh,
I've
really?
seen those little buses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's kind of their goal, but I think, to your point, Jim, I think it's a point, 'cause we brought it up as well, is transit service should service all developed areas of the
Okay.
city. So maybe, some kind of comment as development occurs, transit needs to be extended to reach it.
That's
Yeah,
fine. Just
leave it
so
like
it's,
that.
That's what it is. and- Yeah,
Correct, yeah, and that way, if it's, on a more modern way than a fixed road, it can be accommodated and still be fine.
very good. Okay, thank you.
That's pretty.
I would look at, I'm sorry, page 48, recommendation 1 says continue and monitor current service and explore potential expansion opportunities for the community. So we could make that a little bit more specific, say specifically on the east side as development continues. So I think
Okay.
that gives us the direction that you're looking for there.
Okay. That would suffice me.
And again, as Josh had mentioned, it's really a 30,000 foot document, so
I know it
those
is.
little one word phrases is what will go into a staff report when we're talking about doing routes 5 years
Yeah.
from now or whatever.
I just don't want to miss the opportunity to bring something
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Those little buses are great, by the way, for getting into some of these older roads. They can make some of the shines that. Good, so here's an example of one of those required elements, sort of interspersing into other parts of the plan, the cultural resources. We have a page here as an example on tourism and hospitality as part of economic development. In some communities, their cultural resources, if we're talking about small town USA in the middle of nowhere, that maybe is just kind of standalone thing, but tourism and hospitality here in Green Bay is so central to the economy that it really should go in this section. So some of the big ideas, key recommendations for economic development, we have commercial corridor revitalization, transit oriented development, that we just discussed. Emphasis on things like, and this is what, as David was mentioning, updated zoning following adoption of a policy document. Got your should statements. One of the things you want to do following this is get into your zoning code and update those shall statements, the actual regulations and the local law. So There's things you can do in your zoning code to encourage shared parking facilities, street oriented buildings, landscaping, pedestrian infrastructure. And those are all things that you can help and take a look. You can see what sort of alignment does our code have with the big ideas of this plan and tweak those regulations. New business associations and BIDs, business improvement districts, and then continuing to build on that established tourism, the draw from your events and activities, like, draws people even from outside of it. The transportation.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
We can go back to that one. Prior. I would really like to see on this one, just because it's important to me, it may sound important to everybody. In the recommendations on this sheet, we call out some of the 7 and 8 particularly. Mostly multimodal, though, talking about the intermodal between ship traffic to the rail. That's a big focus right now at the Port of Green Bay at the mouth of the river. And I think is a huge development driver for a number of reasons that go into if we need to, but I would love to see that involved here as well. And maybe it is because it's on this page too, but that's just my call out.
Yeah, Jake, so the recommendation is in the document. What I did is I kind of pulled them out and then Josh just to fit them on the slide, sure, it had to be selected.
That's fair.
But yeah, the multimodal shipping, receiving facility, they do them all over the country and they're really great for businesses who don't have access to rail or access to water. But that, you can still utilize those resources for your business.
I just think about what makes our situation unique of where we are. We have access to the water, we're working at getting better facilities for that multimodal and something that's not going away. It's something you can build now and get benefit for decades ahead. It's something that think about all the cities in the middle of the country that they don't have access to that waterway. It's something that we have and we need to take advantage of. I know we turned our back on the river for so long. We've turned around that. But let's not forget the business aspect too, of just freight movements and what makes Green Bay different.
Yeah, this is another good example of one of those elements that doesn't fit neatly. You've got a port that's economic development, but it's also transportation, freight transport, which is transportation, and also used to build. So,
You can tell what I do for work.
yes.
Yeah.
Say something specific.
Maybe let's move in lobby. Okay, good. So for transportation and mobility, again, there's a classic functional class map in the start of this chapter, but then we'll get into some of the transportation improvements. And most of these reflect the MPO's long range plan for transportation in the region. Some of these improvements are carrying forward other planning documents and even looking outside of Green Bay's municipal boundary. I should have mentioned that as well, that a lot of what you find in your comprehensive plan, this isn't the standalone transportation plan for the city. You have the MPO's transportation plan. So we do try to fold in those recommendations and have this plan to those other plan documents that are still relevant and active, currently active. There's an emphasis on complete streets, which the idea behind complete streets, which is defined here again in the text, is that when you have the opportunity to redesign a street, you should consider that street for all users of the road. So whether you're walking, biking, taking transit, freight, whatever it may be. That's not to say that now, because if you do have a complete streets policy, automatically every road from here on out is going to have a bike lane and a sidewalk and a median and bump outs, but that those things should be considered when the opportunity arises, when it's logical, when the street's going to be resurfaced or completely reworked. Let's consider all users of the road network. Did a little bit of a deeper dive into this. I think in your previous plan, complete streets design, narrowing streets. Again, some traffic calming graphics that you don't have to be a civil engineer to understand what's going on with these types of improvements. It should be clear to understand how these could help you get around if you're on bike or on foot. Discussion of streetscaping and pedestrian amenities. Another pretty deep dive into bikeways. So as a collective term, bikeways includes both on-street and off-street facilities and what those could look like in Green Bay. I will say that from some of the bigger events that we did and from some of the pop-up outreach, there was a lot of focus on wanting to be able to bike to more places, to be able to get around for both recreation and transportation. So we tried to reflect that in this document. We included a map of the existing and recommended bike and pedestrian network. And then, of course, public transportation, as we were just previously discussing, you can see the on demand there. I mentioned. And the current iteration of the Green Bay Metro map that you will update that quite frequently, which is good. You know, have a bus network, you want to be, that's one of the reasons of a good bus network is preferred over rail, and rail line doesn't change once it's there. So being flexible with your bus routes, that's a good thing. And then emerging technologies, of course, increase in hybrid and plug-in electrics and things like that. So some of the big ideas for transportation and mobility, an increased emphasis on complete streets. When the opportunity arises, let's at least consider designing our streets a little bit differently, be strategic about it. Expanding the Green Bay trail system, both for transportation and recreation. Connectivity between street and sidewalk networks. Pilot programs to allow overnight on-street parking, which can help with the economic development and can help with, believe it or not, on-street parking can help with traffic calming and pedestrian safety as well.
Definitely helps with affordable ones as well.
Like somebody on site, right, can help reduce your site parking requirements, yeah. A TOD study, so a recommendation to conduct that TOD study on the east side that might identify those corridors, future corridors that might be appropriate for transit-oriented development. Rail accessible industrial sites and logistics hubs. I didn't just upward that based on restoring passenger rail service and considering a centrally located station possibly for Amtrak and regional train transit. That was something that was mentioned last night in the open house. I had a good conversation with the gentleman that has some ideas about that. So
yeah, maybe you're going to talk about this, but I did see that in the comments. I know it's been brought up at multiple meetings. Do we have any updated information on rail? I know it's still a conversation that's ongoing, or
Still a conversation at the state level, but that's a big item. It's not something you're gonna get really, really fast. And obviously you're gonna be coming from the south, so Milwaukee and then Chicago are gonna have to come up this way without that we're connected to really. And then how that works, whether they're gonna go this way or they're gonna split up and go to Minneapolis. Madison, Minneapolis, or it's Milwaukee, Green Bay.
similar to the previous comment about TOD and transit-oriented development, it's the kind of thing where you wouldn't want to necessarily drop a pin on your comprehensive plan and say this is where that station will be. For one, you don't want to put it on someone's property, but also you probably want to keep a little bit of a chip. We know it's probably going to be along one of the existing rail spurs. So you might want to identify kind of generally like in this area, probably a station is going to occur if we can continue to work with the state Amtrak on regional railroad.
I think the beauty of that is when we say centrally located.
Middletown Brewery.
That
Middletown,
would actually
the
be-
depot, make them,
That would actually be a great spot.
that would be amazing.
But yeah, you're gonna go wherever the lines are, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna do a new one. I think there was somebody last night that had said, well, it needs to be to go to Lambeau. Or something like that,
That'd
right?
be tough.
That was
Right,
very
yeah.
difficult and
There's actually nice
expensive
buses
line.
that bring us to Lambeau on game days, so we could utilize that for free, yeah.
I would just think Amtrak would want to be, I don't know if they used to, we went a long time ago, but I would just think, I mean, I would get on the train almost every weekend to go to Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Other than
Even to
drive,
walk,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, even Milwaukee, other than driving down, so it's just, I would think that
Yeah.
economically, because it's so easy. You know, you think that
It would be
It's a
great,
long time till we had
We're trying to
money
be
for that.
here, right.
especially in the winter.
Especially-
Yeah.
Well, and the benefit for those who don't drive.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
own a vehicle, I mean, right now you're,
Right.
you Uber down to Milwaukee, probably.
Yeah.
You have to find a ride for.
Right.
It's going to be a popcorn, I will pop on the train, come right back.
Okay, so we're on to community facilities and infrastructure. Again, required development by state statute, it's that the plan must address your utilities and facilities, so a lot of that is captured here in this chapter. But we're talking about city services, city governance. Broadband, again, this is a classic example of something that you see more and more in comprehensive plans that you probably didn't see even 10 years ago.
Probably, right, yeah.
We all, coming out of the pandemic, everybody knows how important broadband is as a utility, gotta have it, so. This is something that, we strongly believe should be in a comprehensive plan, the broadband coverage areas, for improvements.
And that map that Josh just had on the screen is very interesting to me, because I just assumed.
Why is it
that-
orange downtown? Why is there a huge block of orange right downtown? I mean, it's on the east side, I live on the west, so I'm good, but.
So I mean, just even having this
That's their
existing
thing there.
map is very interesting to know
It's
where,
not-
our-
That's a huge, look at that.
to know where the weaknesses are.
But that's, I can do it.
What that's, you know what, you know where that is?
That's-
Yeah, that's
It's all industrial.
That's all industrial, that's,
Industrial.
Georgia,
That's why I said that.
not Georgia Pacific, but it's one of those.
This ultimately.
Okay.
Nobody lives.
No.
Right, it's right.
Oh, but
There's
you
a
could-
really cool building on that property though, that's like an old house in the front of that
Oh.
closed property, right on Quincy when you turn. Right, when you
Yeah.
go over the, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, it's kind of a cool building.
I've been in there.
Sorry, sidetrack, my bad.
Yeah, but even on the east side there, you have the yellow, which is surprising, because that's some of our nicest neighborhoods in town.
But again, the focus to know on lots of illustrative maps, again, this is a bit of a point in time, but, here in 2025, this is what the data, showed, so. You want to recognize it here and consider those areas, I wouldn't, any one of these areas, if, again, if a new road was gonna go through it, there was an opportunity to consider, new fiber, that's where this document ended out. Let's get Lambeau Field. As well. So again, here, I'd say this again speaks to those elements, some of those elements threaded through both revenue sources. You got your gathering spaces, third spaces, pocket parks. That's an activities that take place with those. And then the historic districts as well. Again, those seem to make the most sense in the community facilities section, so. Some of these key areas that you want to preserve and protect. Long term. Some of the big ideas here, in the community facilities section, feasibility analysis for community or senior centers. Expanding programming and sharing resources with, for educational, cultural and digital services. And adaptive reuse and restoration of historic structures. I think, the community facilities chapter probably. As much or maybe more than any of the other sections of your comprehensive plan is a lot about collaboration, because the city can't carry the water on every single one of these things. Cities doesn't build senior centers, but can support them. So there's when you get into that intergovernmental collaboration piece, there's a lot of partners that go into the various public and semi-public facilities and services that keep the city. So here we are, another centerpiece of this plan, an exciting part. One of the reasons I think that our firm got so excited going all the way back to saw the RFP, is that you had in your previous plan a very cool districts, nodes, and corridors approach. And another directive alongside keeping the plan straightforward, brief, plain English, easy to understand and read, was to carry forward this districts, nodes, and corridors approach into 2025. So that's what we aim to do. Again, I'm not gonna go, I have a couple example districts and nodes here, but an explanation of what we mean by district, corridor, and node. The introductory paragraph. And then there is 10 of these in the document, so collectively they cover the whole city. And you almost have you're zooming into each of these individual areas of the city, and we're doing what we sometimes call a detailed planning, or a little bit more of a framework type plan, where we're getting very specific, we're getting down to even intersection scale. And that's zooming in from that 30,000 foot view that David mentioned to really getting more hyper specific. And these plans are helpful in a comprehensive plan document because they can tee off a future corridor study, that TOD study, the Amtrak study, which I was talking to the gentleman last night. This might be where we recommend, consider the Amtrak here. So when you get detailed like this, these really can be sort of tools in the planning department's arsenal to have a seat at the table when that Amtrak goes into fruition, or when the new bus routes are coming out. We can look at these districts and say that we have this on the books in 2025. This is what we wanted to do in this district. Let's see how your proposal or your plan improvement or your road reconstruction fits with our planning document. And we did, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we did outreach in every one of these districts. Is that correct?
But for the industrial port. But we did do stakeholder interviews for most of the ownership up there, so.
Yeah. So
There's no residents.
a lot of these are hyper specific as well. It's a very cool approach that you established in the previous plan document 20 years ago, and it's carried forward, updated, and really built on specific community feedback for each of these districts. And it's really doors.
And Jake, to your question before about the intermodal, it's number 8 in District 5. So it is in there. It's just again.
I do, that was my favorite section of the entire thing, but.
Really?
No, not just the entire section, because we've run into this all the time when we're coming up on whatever plan, right? And we get to zoom in on a neighborhood
Right.
and get contextual everything for it in one spot. And I think it's just gonna make, I'm sure it makes your guys' lives easier too, but it's gonna make our jobs easier when we come in, look at this and get a good feel for that neighborhood. 'Cause we're not familiar with every single one. West Side, I don't know what's kind of over there. It helps a ton, is all I'm saying.
Right. Well, and the beauty with this, the way this is laid out, I mean, it has the recommendations and they are limited in number. Again, this is a document we plan to update more often, not every 20 years. And I know we do a dozen, sometimes more a year of updates, but larger updates to the recommendation sections as we clear up. But these maps can go into that more detail. So again, but not just for the planning commission or city staff. I'm a developer and thinking I want to build somewhere. I can look, is this the future that I want my business, my industry? And with a pretty good assurance that over 20 years, that's what it's going to be like. Which is very important to even somebody buying a house. I mean, biggest investment in your life, it's a business, it's even more.
So I'm kind of backtracking a little bit back to the community facilities. You don't need to go back on the slides or anything, but I know you talked about how the city isn't in charge of building senior centers. Was there any specific talk about youth centers or places? Because I know that there's a really big problem in Green Bay with teenagers and people of that age that there's no place for them to go.
Yeah, I think in the plan itself, it just refers to community centers. It doesn't really break it down to senior or youth. It's just community centers. And really, as we would study that further, what's the need? I mean, we may have senior centers coming up as very needed. And then, the next bulge of birth. Now they gotta be switched over to youth centers because same.
All right,
same-
'cause I have a friend who's always in my ear about youth center, so I'm gonna not be your ear about it. So I don't know whether that's appropriate for this board or not, but I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna have teenagers soon, so.
Yeah.
Got one on. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, I saw another hand up over there.
Okay, I just had another specific question on page 77. I think you nailed the East Mason Street needs, development of a streetscape or sidewalk.
Mm.
Right now, there's nothing for a sidewalk, there's nothing for bikes. If you're on a bike on Mason Street, you're as far east, you're in danger, really.
You have.
So, the one question I have is there's a blank space. East Mason is heading east and then you get to Alpine and it stops and then it
Purple.
picks up on the east side of 43. I don't understand why there would be a, and again, this kind of relates to me. Far east is being developed and there's a lot of people moving in and they're gonna be there in the next 5, 10, 15 years. There's gonna be a lot more need for potential bike and walking on this corridor.
Well, not only that gap is a hill too, so that makes it even worse almost.
Yeah, it's kind of a hill. It's on kind of on top of the hill. But I mean, I don't see why we would stop and then start. We need it the whole length out. And it might even converge onto Finger Road and come off of Mason Street, which is fine. But, you know, I think we wanna facilitate the whole corridor and not have a blank, that's all. So there's gonna be a lot of far east desire to come into downtown or at least near downtown from the east side.
And that 43 intersection is.
Yeah,
So
43
let's make
intersection.
it look nice, right?
Yeah,
And be functional.
There's no
I have
sidewalks.
to admit, I don't have an answer for why the gap is there,
okay.
but we could take a look at it.
Okay, please take a look at
And
it.
I speculate the gap is there because that is a section of backyards of single family homes, but. And the active transportation connection is on there, so I don't know if the streetscaping was felt. When we did our neighborhood meetings at that one, but to your point, it is.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
We'll just keep it cohesive.
No reason not to
Yeah.
go through it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they assume that they're, like you said, it's backyard, so people aren't really coming out right in that section. They're coming from Alpine going that way, or they're coming from the other side of Mason and going that way. So that might be,
They're
but
coming out of
but the
Beach,
cohesiveness,
But people could be coming through that.
right, there are some people that are absolutely gonna be going all the way through.
One of the only other things I'll say is that, another cool thing that you can do when you do a detailed plan like this, that you can pull in some of the recommendations, and even if there's a physical boundary to your past plans, can reflect those on here as well. So I think you'll see like a call out for the Gulf Avenue corridor plan. I think is one. So we did a deep dive into your smaller area plans and tried to reflect those recommendations that were still relevant, anything still pertinent and still underway in these districts, pull those into your comprehensive plan and show them on these maps as best we could. And then you'll also see call outs for personalities. So I would say the way to think about these personalities is we're zooming in even a little bit further. So it's almost like another lens as you zoom in. So what could the Mason Avenue, what the West Mason corridor actually look like? It's almost like when you're in Google and you drop in a street view. This is supposed to give you some idea of what would the personality of that corridor potentially be. So you've started at 30,000 feet, you've zoomed into the districts, and now you're actually standing there. And that's what these spreads are supposed to do, and we work closely with All Together on these. And these are heavily based on the outreach. I'd say the districts have a lot of ingredients from staff input to advisory group input to planning best practices, your past plans. These really are heavily based on what we heard in community outreach, these personalities.
Right, what I like as a staff member and hopefully for the council to give us direction, but we do plans all the time, and so, you know, we have a Belt Avenue plan, University plan, the thought city plan downtown, military plan. This really sets a nice direction for our leadership to say staff dedicate some time, to look at West Mason. Or if a grant's available, let's get a firm to do West Mason. And so really what's in these, and I don't know if you're gonna get more into it, so I hope I'm not stealing your thunder.
Go ahead.
But anyway, it gives you a vision. This isn't what that is, but this is a vision for it. And then they pulled out a bunch of examples from around the nation. And say, why don't you take a look at these other communities and what they have done and try to incorporate that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but take a look what other people are doing.
Right.
The West Mason one, the one that I really enjoy looking at is the University Avenue. Because if you, on page 92, which you've been, what we've been seeing at University Avenue is sort of an influx of new business and new people. They happen to be very Latino in nature, and some of the capitalization on that, I mean, it's a community benefit. And we should be celebrating it, and this plan goes to, hey, look at these inspiring stories. And it's working in other parts of the country, so, I just wanted to point that out, that these personalities are kind of rare. I don't think I've ever seen them in a plan before. But they're, I think they're gonna be really valuable for the city.
And I would just say this, that university corridor personnel is organic. It's not like something that was built in. It's just, it's developed organic, which makes it natural and it makes it authentic. And capitalizing on it, I don't think that's a bad thing. That's a good.
It's supporting.
It's supporting.
It's organically grown, but
Yeah.
now it's the time to start saying, okay, let's
Absolutely.
recognize. this.
Absolutely, and you have developers that if they saw this, I mean, I think of one developer. That comes to mind, but if there's an opportunity to do something that aligns with the personality. And lack of a better word, is profitable for them, they're gonna do it. So.
Well,
I love these.
also some nonprofits, so there's quite a few business owners, Latino business owners in that area that are organizing. They kind of see this, it's like, okay, we're gonna invest more, or we're gonna donate to do some of these public stuff. Because we see what the future is gonna be like. So it is a recruitment tool as well, and economic development tool. The tourism tool, it's multi.
I think it also gives that nuance that's needed. So this obviously is focusing on that corridor of university. And I was looking at, I'm gonna try to find it, whatever the neighborhood in the prior section,
yeah.
that Bears Creek one.
Yep.
It encompassed this, but also the other side of 43 over there. It's very different areas if you're actually in them. But this gives this the attention for that area that it needs compared to the more residential character of Bears.
Yeah, and you'll notice in these plans, it kind of just, kind of Jim's point before, it may stop. And we have a University Avenue plan, but it's really only the far east side of University Avenue right now, sort of where the grocery store is, where you've seen the redevelopment happen, right?
Yeah.
So this would take in the, kind of the rest of it. So, and that is super important as well, so we're not abandoning all these planning documents that we have and that we've been using. They're referenced in here and, as they are now, those plans are adopted as part of the comp plan, supplements to the comp plan. So everything doesn't have to be in here,
Yeah.
and reference you to other documents.
I do know the personality, so I mean, I just have friends that are, you know, looking at. That are with organizations and companies that are looking at to expand in Green Bay. And I'm just thinking about, I won't go into a lot of detail, but they were like, oh, I was just in Green Bay and I was looking at this because we're looking at putting this here. And I'm like, why would you put it there? And they was like, well, we're a growing area. We've already got to the city. And I'm like, I've never would have thought to put that type of establishment in that location, but it's all people saying, because it's a growing area and it's like the trend and it's organic. It's not something that someone is forcing, it's organically happening. So.
Easy highway access over there too.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we want to be visible. I know we're getting off track, but I love that this is organically formed, but if we can provide opportunity for people to develop in that area of something that's already there, I think it's a win city.
Oh, sorry, I know that.
No, it's totally fine. I'm almost
Yeah.
done here. But these are a couple of the big ideas that you'll see in these districts, and there's so many, it's almost hardly even capture them on this slide, but Obviously maintaining Lincoln Field and that hometown feel. New commercial nodes within neighborhoods, not just at major intersections or along corridors. Multimodal shipping and receiving, Marina District Master Plan. Development of industrial parks in the new growth areas, the east side area, the Bear Creek Trail, water taxi, potential for a water taxi. And then again, Latino Business Association and Business Improvement District for University Avenue. There's, it's almost hard to even pick a couple of the big and interesting and cool ones. There's so many great recommendations in these sections.
Right, and these are, again, just the pullouts, the ones that I think were pretty big. You'll see a lot of in here that'll be like promote housing affordability. You know, which is slightly vague and it gets into more detail, but that's something we're trying to do all the time. So it's, I didn't think to put it into this, you know, consolidated sheet for you. Just because it's kind of a no-brainer to me, but they're all listed in this. And they're all listed in the green boxes or the maps of the documents. So, yeah.
Yeah, again, this really caught our attention when we looked at your past plan. We were like, I remember being with the team before we even started on this project and looking at what they did years ago, and to try and do it justice, carry it forward into today, I think was a challenge. So was really rewarding. So, and could not have done it again without the staff team and the great community input that we had all over the city. So lastly, implementation. We will often get this question like, looks great, how do we pay for it all? Or how do we get this all done? That's, I don't want to say that's the wrong question to ask with a comprehensive plan, but a comprehensive plan, we already touched on this, you know. You have some of this toehold language in your planning document, a couple of years down the line when something happens, when Amtrak's ready to make a move, when street's gonna be reconstructed and Wisconsin DOT, if they don't hear from the city, they're just gonna put in another, you know, basic multi-lane highway and keep as is status quo, move people through, and now you have those that toehold language for complete streets. That's the perspective that you want with your comprehensive plan. So the implementation chapter is all about partnerships. How are we going to use this document? Who are we going to work with? What are some of the immediate things that we can do, like updating our zoning and development controls, updating our related plans? What are the funding sources we can tap into? Who are the partners? Where do we need to look outside of our municipal boundary? And then, as David mentioned, in front of you is a draft version of the implementation action matrix. So the action matrix pairs all of these recommendations and kind of distills them down to their essence, their board recommendation, and it pairs them with a priority level, time frame, key partners, things like that. It's almost like an index to this whole plan document. So sometimes they'll say if you're not the type of person who wants to read the whole plan, you know, you probably want to look at the future land use development chapter, and then you want to look at the action matrix, the index to the plan. I think that this plan is particularly readable, makes people want to flip through it and read the whole thing, but this is sort of the key to the whole document, and it's in a handout draft format right now, but we will build the document as we get into the final adoption draft. So that's all I have. Next steps are planning commission action potentially tonight, and then carrying forward all these comments and going into the adoption process with city council. So again, I just would like to reiterate what a great process this has been, and that I think that is a document that the city will be really proud of and really document. So any other questions you may have, Jacob and I or any of the staff are here for you, and then I want to say thank you.
Yeah, so that was kind of the meat of the plan itself. And I know It's a big document. Kind of difficult to navigate around, but this one is much simpler than our two giant documents we currently use. Which I love them, but, this one is much more concise. So I don't know if you wanted to go through the big ideas, or you wanna look at the table, or you just wanna talk freely. Well,
Starting with page one, could you just?
thanks to those who participated.
Oh, my goodness.
There are a few acknowledgement pages too that I suppose we should mark. Plan commission is on here, the council reports, including our former alders, the advisory group. Staff, partner organizations, and we did dedicate this document to the previous principal planner. Who had worked for the city for 30 years, and he passed away while working on it, but during the updates, and he was on the citizen advisory group, so.
picture. Yeah.
I think there is somewhere in here, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in there.
Pick her name out.
I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
we have that,
The opportunity.
Lisa.
Lisa? No, shoot.
And as I had mentioned, so this, in the small sheet were the comments we received last night.
Right.
Staff hasn't even had time to look through them yet, so I haven't read them.
Mm.
I saw you guys
We read
pointing
them.
at one that I kind of read, and I was like, right,
Yeah, take that.
the last one, sure.
Yeah, and all those comments will be vetted by staff before going through with city council. We'll make sure we have staff recommendations on those, so it's not like someone's gonna willy-nilly by the floor and we'll say, that's not a great idea, or yes, we should. You know, we'll have that kind of in that chart as well.
Yeah, and some of them were, I mean, some of the, actually, as we went through the comments, we saw some of us going through the comments, and some of them are very valid, the EV say, I mean, we mentioned that before, I know there was a project where there were gonna be more.
That was gas station that was right
That
across the
fell
river.
through. So that's legitimate,
Yeah.
some of the other ones, we were like, come on,
Not so much, yeah.
this is
I read them all.
62.
But yeah.
Alex has 5 comments.
Yeah, Alex
is excited.
Alex.
I mean, who works here.
We just
so.
need,
Right, yeah.
give us like, I think probably $30 million so we can build a bridge over the river. I mean, that's, I mean. I really think that all costs? I don't know how much.
Come on now.
30 million?
All right, you know what?
All
Wait,
right.
wait,
50 million.
we're at 30,000.
So my thought in order to keep things kind of efficient, if you wanted to go through those most impactful ones and just see if there was anything in there that's like, hey, this is weird, or we don't like that. Some of the big ones, I'll run through them super quick.
Before you do, why do we call out these ones specific? And I know that's what you'll get into, but what are you intending to do with this versus the longer list?
Well, with this, the longer list is gonna have some repeats, so to kind of give you an example, what I did is I went through this long list. Narrowed it down to about 6 pages, narrowed it down to about 4 pages, but I narrowed it down to this.
I'm sure that was painful.
It was difficult. So these are ones that some may have consolidated, so you might see in multi areas where they talk about increasing density or including different types of housing choices. You can see that in multiple sections, in the housing section, in the some of the neighborhood sections in some of the districts. So what I had done is kind of compiled it here because in multiple places, and I'm just gonna read it, amend the code to facilitate missing middle. Housing development, expand mixed use areas, encourage density increases to include duplexes, townhouses, accessory dwelling units. Multifamily and mixed use structure in all areas of the city. I put this out here because that could be controversial to
That will
some
garner some
people.
conversation.
Yes.
Right, so I don't wanna hide anything in here, I mean, that is potentially a controversial item, so. I listed it out here, and I kind of consolidated it. So some of those, like another one, you know, it's on the second page, but is a complete street policy. Not everybody agrees that, all streets should have sidewalks, or bike lanes, or sharrows, or whatnot. There's a recommendation here to analyze, I don't know if it's made it on the list here, but to analyze the way you build streets, are they overbuilt? And just look at that. So I kind of pulled these out, and then some of the big ones, like, comments that we received almost every meeting was. Why don't we have sidewalks? Why is there a gap in the sidewalk system? And so one of the recommendation, actually in multiple sections, fill and close all existing sidewalk gaps. And then also, which I found to be kind of interesting, was enforce the municipal code for sidewalk installation and new development. Because that's where your gaps start appearing, so you'll require it in the subdivision, the next subdivision will waive it. And then the next subdivision over, it's back, so now people, you can't actually get to each other by safely walking in one street. But these are potentially controversial items that I have seen over the last 10 years. So I want to just call them out, so you can kind of focus. You kind of can focus on some of those. So that's why, Jake, I'm kind of saying you may want to focus on this, but you can go over this if you like.
So I guess my question is, what's the call to action? Is it to go over every? Like, what do we do from here? Are we supposed to go?
Well, from here, the plan commission, if you have recommended changes or want further study in certain areas. For like Jim had just brought up, there were a couple, specific changes that you wanted right away. Those are gonna go forward, so there'll be a resolution from the plan commission saying we're recommending adoption of this plan. With these conditions, and it would be the plan commission's changes that you want here, so we would add, like close the gap on East Mason for the streetscaping section. Because we're not gonna change this any longer, because this is what the public saw, so we want to see what the public saw. And then they'll get a list of all those running recommended
Partner with
changes.
MFRAD. ASAP.
Well, and that's a long range item as well, when you look at the implementation table, which is interesting, so it'll have a priority level, and a time frame and partners. So some of them might be high priority, but long range, or low priority, but easy to do.
Yeah.
So that's really, and that's up to
That's
the
the
council and the directors and the mayor. To decide where they want to direct staff's time and where they want to throw in.
We've been like diligently taking notes over here, if you can't tell. So anything that really comes out of this, you're like, yes, we love this, but add X, Y, and Z. That'll kind of just get added onto this running list, and then we'll say that this was supported by the plan commission, so that way the council has full information of where it came from and how it was vetted, so. That's kind of how this will all shake out.
Right, and so that's a good point. So you could go over these 30 comments as well and say if you support them or you don't support them. The council will be getting these anyway, and then the plan commissions will be identified a little differently. As your appointed group. But they'll be all on this big running list for the council to look at. Hopefully, they'll be reading this at home first, kind of have vetted it before they're at the council chambers. But as I mentioned, we do have a council workshop set up, I believe, for the 16th. It's only an hour right before the meeting, also this huge packets. So we may end up doing another. But at that point, that's where we want to be at.
I did go through the comments, I know you saw some of us going through the comments and. The things that really popped out to me was the rail, which I've already mentioned a couple of times. The downtown expansion was a very unique comment, but I don't know much about that one. But the one living downtown in downtown core district area, the homelessness comments that's kind of, I think they're very valid. And I would love to have some more focus on that, specifically the St. John's shelter not being, I don't know, they didn't come up, but it's not year round. So unfortunately, the homelessness that we do see downtown, they end up going places during the day because there's no day shelters, which could lead to, if we had community centers or youth centers or something where they could go to.
That's section 5.3 of the city.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
Right, Jake, I was gonna say something about that too, so.
They end up going to the library, unfortunately, in the library in the day service, day calls. So much so that the library is thinking about like limiting their hours, not being open on the weekend and doing some different things. Just some other things I'm involved with because of the amount of homeless people that come there, it's overwhelming.
I feel like we just have a problem with people who don't have places to go, so
Yeah,
like
they don't have
youth,
places to go.
homeless,
Yeah.
houseless people, the generate population, like.
Yeah.
There's no places,
There's no places to
be.
go. Yeah.
right?
Unfortunately, and they end up walking all the way over to the mall. I know that's wrong though. But you do see a lot of homeless people now over, even at the mall, just walking around because there's nowhere else for them to go. So, no, that's a huge issue for us in downtown core. Because we see it, and when we living in the Whitney Park area, we see it there as well. But definitely in the St. John's area, it's more prevalent in downtown.
point in just closing stuff down doesn't do anything, it just displaces
It just-
people move.
it
to
disperses
places.
them
So there
places.
needs to be some kind of
There needs to be something.
solution.
Yeah, and some of the comments we even heard tonight, so the downtown comment was really good. Our old plan does show expansions of downtown. So we have our core downtown, and kind of right, we actually consider it staff from Mason North. Ashland over to. I wanna say it's Webster, maybe Monroe, I have to look the map up. Right, and as this plan evolves, that kind of changes, so you'll notice in the future land use map. It's gonna have higher mixed use around the downtown core. And as that sort of builds out, that expands out. So our current plan, you'll see it's much smaller than we are now. Well, not much, but smaller than we are now. We've gone further south, down to the shipyard. The rail yard was all developed. So that kind of expands, and as we do our regular updates to this document, that would shift as well.
It doesn't call it out specifically, but I know it's in here and I know we're doing, but like specifically calling, do we need to specifically call out infill of like. Filling the parking lots downtown, like I like the idea of expanding downtown, but. A hell of a lot of open space still available in downtown, that's just surface market. So it should be more pointed with. Yes, we'd love to expand downtown, but probably a lower hanging fruit is use the space that's already available downtown. To a higher and better.
I think
What's
it's
the
pretty
density?
vague, like talking about density in it, but it doesn't specifically call out the fact that we're 50% parking lots downtown. So I feel like that would be a great thing to add in, so it's also like a good point of time marker for where we're at currently. So I don't think that's specifically in the plan.
And
I only read it 3 times.
It's in there. I mean, it's.
It's in there, but not
50%.
specific. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
I did see somewhere, in one of the aspirational. Like one of the aspirational personalities or something where they were doing, I don't know, where it was different. Doing innovation with their parking lots and turn them into something. I don't know where I saw that at, but.
I could see it.
Well, and I can go through the comments that I wrote down that you have made so far. When you're ready. If it's not right.
Oh, sorry, where are we at? Are we actionable to we could make a recommendation? We're just trying to figure out if we want to have specific conditions listed. Because we know this is gonna be tomorrow.
Right,
At this point, it's more of just like.
Maybe more like suggestion to council to consider.
correct.
You know what's
Recommending, well, hopefully recommending approval with these suggestions, so council will get a list of suggestions. And then they'll have to kind of go through it on their own, or if they want to go through it with staff, it'll take more time, but. Just like today, some of these are, nobody has any questions about, right?
Yeah.
Some of them you want to focus in on.
I think by the time this goes to council, this list will be a little bit more. Here's who made the comment, here's what the comment is, here's what staff feels about it, and then if our recommendation is to add it into the plan, where would we add it?
Right.
So it's a little bit more like, yep, approve this with all of these recommendations from staff, or, cut recommendations 5, 6, and 7. So this is just a little bit more of like draft form, so it'll be a little bit more
All based on.
recommended or not.
I wasn't even gonna give it to you at first. It just happened last night.
We see
Thank
those
you
for the
guys
first thing
for
where you look-
getting it all together, but. Yeah,
Maybe there's a recommendation to get parking
Right.
lot redesign. I think that's what's called out in here. From
Okay.
Innovative concepts about redesigning parking lots. Maybe even if you look at some of the things, even that they've done at East Town Mall, with
They
all
have-
the parking lot space and it's more built in, there's almost
You did a good
businesses
job,
in the
I'm sure.
building. No, he is doing a great job.
I mean, I think it looks nice. I mean,
it's
so
it's
it
a
was such a
different
ghost town for
feel.
It's
so
a whole
long.
different feel. It's just like in the seas of parking lots. There's a building here, there's a business here. You can move in between the businesses. No, there was a lot of easements and all that other stuff. We had to go through that, but it's very different and unique. And there's maybe the parking lot redesign concept or something. Okay, if downtown is 50%. Man, I'm not.
well,
what I hear.
the parking lots would go away.
Well, I mean, but if you can't afford to have the whole parking lot go away, maybe you can put 2 businesses there. In the middle, and they
With the
share the
addition,
parking lot,
right.
and the spaces you can leave now, so. Just innovative concepts.
There's a densifying downtown call out that touches on it a little bit on page 75. So it could be more explicit.
On page 38, recommendation three says work with businesses and property owners to consolidate surface parking lots and implement recommendations from the recent parking study.
That's gonna
How
be
do you
mainly
recommend
for
that?
parking, yeah, well, the consolidation of lots is great, and the sharing of lots is great, because it opens up more, you can double up the parking, right? Each person doesn't need their own 50 lot, they can share 150. But I
And
think
that's
we could
downtown.
add something maybe on 75 about,
I mean, just highlight
fill in-
that's
fill in
densifying
parking
down
lots.
downtown, or I don't know how you wanna treat it, but I mean, I would be happy with just like giving that a highlight or something like
Yeah.
that as the priority, or maybe the recommendations. Exactly.
Yeah, and as downtown becomes more dense, I mean,
More
just think about
structures.
more, yeah, you're not gonna need those, I mean, people are gonna be walking more, and you're gonna have more people that go to those businesses, so. Actually putting a business into a parking lot that's already there, it's actually, you're gonna have to look in patrons already.
And we did it at East Town more as like a pilot to see how it would work. We're calling them in lots. Where they're in the middle of a parking lot, instead of saying, hey, just reconfigure your entire site, is, well, plop a lot in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to as a pilot, they seem to be working well, especially with that easement in place, so
Yeah.
that could definitely be part of reconstruction.
And if you in a year or two, those businesses don't make it, you know that it didn't work, but I've been to my own.
I think you're doing pretty well.
I think
Yeah,
that's.
traffic is going
They
well,
might be
there aren't
doing
accidents.
more, they might be doing better than the actual commercial properties behind them, actually.
Oh.
But East Town's interesting because you have the stuff along
Frontage.
Mason,
Mhm.
then you have a second layer, then you have the old.
The mall itself, right?
So it's like 3 layers of.
So
of
many, so
commercial.
much shopping,
Yeah. Well, and Craig.
right? Phone
Coffee
places,
shops.
yeah,
You need those.
Perkins,
That's true, it's true.
Chipotle,
Yeah.
Mark.
Smokehouse, I mean.
So so 16, when we talk about the closing the existing sidewalk gaps, is this also the point about complete streets, or am I missing that on a different point?
That's also in part of
Part of
complete
all of that.
streets, but
I would
it
just like-
it specifically calls out in several
gap.
areas, close the gaps in sidewalks.
I would just like it noted that I would like to close the sidewalk gaps and I would like complete streets, that's all, that's
That's the whole plan.
that's just, that's it, just, I want it noted.
You're gonna pay for that? 'Cause other residents pay. That's why they don't want.
I mean, not to assume anyone's views here, but I've been working with you all for long enough that like, we put this together, this plan, I was like, plan commission's gonna love this. It speaks a lot to how you all condition the work that we've been doing for years, how you have been voting for years. So
Right.
I don't think that there are any hiccups in this plan that are gonna cause us any heartache. But if there's anything above and beyond or anything
Yeah.
specific, I think that's what we really want to get out of you all before it goes before.
I'm sure not one.
It's like,
We don't
it's like you know us.
We don't understand. Why would you not want that?
I mean, I'm kind of struggling to provide any.
Additional
Yeah,
feedback,
insight.
right, like. some
Hey,
additional
that's what
co-
we love.
I mean,
What
No,
else
but then I don't feel
do
useful.
stuff?
We
I
got the
think
the purple
she just
gap.
said we've been useful over our terms.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, is that what it's been? Okay, and because of that, you guys are so able to.
Sponge.
Right, yeah, I'm set.
Why don't I do this? If we're coming in an hour and a half so far, let me go over what I have down right now.
If you've got some points that you're kind of like, what do you think on this,
Yeah,
like, throw
let's do
those at us.
I have. well,
Okay,
I heard
excellent,
it,
let's hear them.
So, first, I just want to talk to the comments that came at the meeting. One was, take a bridge over like Foliar Street and possibly address Mason Street. The suggestion was a tunnel. I don't know how feasible that is, but, DOT is already looking at reconstructing, Mason.
Yeah.
This plan just kind of focuses on bridge reconstruction and intersection, so it does call it out. It does not call it the bridge at Foliar, so that might be one thing that ends up going forward. Then we sort of had, southwest and east side, it's not served by Metro. You see a need for that. As development occurs on the east side, transit needs to be extended to reach it. Several spots in plan for that. There was, lake multimodal shipping and receiving facilities. On page 72. Add potential for passenger rail station on page 69, which is the, downtown Broadway area.
Got it.
Yep,
Got it.
address the community centers to maybe focus on senior and youth centers.
Youth.
So close the streetscaping gap on East Mason, be cohesive along East Mason. address year-round homeless assistance, so not just winter assistance. Possible community facilities and other places, maybe third places, gathering spaces. For that. And also, I added youth services and gathering spaces again. And then be more pointed in downtown infill redevelopment. And also increased density and infill or outfill parking lots. This is how that was referred to just before. And then complete streets and closing sidewalk gaps is specifically important. That's
What's
what I
that last one?
complete streets and closing sidewalk gaps is particularly important. Some of these might not have actually, it's just sort of a push.
It's not like we would proactively go out and do these things, but as development happens, I would assume that's what we're talking about, right? As far as sidewalks, are you proactively going out there and being like, hey, there's a sidewalk
The
gap here, let's
gaps
do
are,
that?
there's a gap, let's fill it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in the plan, it does say you should infill them,
And-
just not new.
Okay, so just so you know, that's giving me a little bit of heartburn with the sidewalk.
I'm sure it is,
Um,
except on fingers, everybody wants it on finger.
yeah, let's do it on finger.
They don't want anything.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Well, I think they want sidewalks there, that's what I've been hearing.
Is there a way to incorporate safety review during these sidewalk things? Like sometimes it's in dead end streets and you have no connection and it's based on the fact that everyone who walks in the street is fairly safe. Versus walking in the street on Mason Street. See,
Right.
it varies from immensely. So is there a way to allow safety review in that closure? We're saying we gotta close all the gaps, wow. You know,
With common sense.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
common sense.
I mean,
We have a sidewalk
I feel like-
policy and we have our
Right.
planning code with, which both speak to when they should not be installed. So we already kind of have that like policy information in the
Okay.
background.
Yeah, well, if you
So-
throw that word in there pursuant to our policy.
Yeah,
We don't want to just be like automatically.
Everything is a sidewalk.
Everywhere
Right, well, and
with, without common
it's not
sense.
really the intent.
Right,
But what we have in here quite a bit, and we have in the old plan, is a little where appropriate.
Okay,
And we can say where appropriate, and I can even add in there based on safety and usage concerns.
that,
That way it gives you a little bit more room. I mean, really, this plan is just that when somebody's redoing a street, let's say, or
Mhm,
we get a petition where somebody goes, you can't have any business there because nobody can walk anywhere, it's not safe.
yeah.
That point, it can trigger you to say, well, the complexes, we need to fill those gaps. DPW, I should look at that,
Yeah.
or whatnot.
I can see the need for that.
I can see you doing it.
And secure with all,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all.
Can you incentivize infield
We
development?
can and we-
Sidewalks.
Development.
We can and we do,
Incentivize?
we do some money, some of the infills, depending where you are incentivized just because the conventional regulations are so much less.
Okay.
So kind of an example, if you're a residential lot platted most of the 1900s up until maybe the 60s, they were 50 feet wide. 60s, they started growing in 70s, 80s, and got huge. So if you're in those areas, your setbacks are drastically reduced. Your density, ability to build more on the lot is increased. Just because the housing sites have changed back in the 1900s, nobody had cars or driveways. So those narrow lots make it a little bit difficult. So we have to change the regulations to be able to adapt for them.
Maybe I should restate that. I meant incentivize infield parking.
wait, what?
like to redevelop on existing parking lots.
Correct.
You're talking more about what RDA would be doing. We're not gonna incentivize specifically.
No, I'm-
And we do that.
Well, because we talk about with 50% of downtown that's parking lots, and we look at something that's innovative and different. If there was a developer that wanted to build in a parking lot, I guess my
I just-
question
I
was,
don't-
would there be some incentives for that?
Yeah, I don't see any parking lot that's like in really good shape that we're like, oh, that's a great parking lot, let's put a building on there, like.
You'd be surprised how many people have favorite parking lots, Lisa. I think we just learned that.
Well, and we could. and we
It's just a
could
question,
then
I just-
Utilize or use incentives to infill parking lots downtown with, in-lots, et cetera. So that could very well be a focus this year. I might show up at the RDA saying, hey, we need to throw some funds at getting these parking lots redone. And that's what this fund, when we have money, is specifically geared for.
Yeah, it was
Again,
just a
it would be in
question,
this
yeah.
plan, but it's up to the
Right.
government to
We
decide
have a
what they're
very large project going on right now on part.
right over
Yeah,
there.
it's-
Yeah.
Oh, over there,
Oh,
actually,
oh.
and hopefully over there.
On Green Bay's favorite parking.
No, that was,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and Josh kind of touched upon this as well earlier, that the plan, like the DOT, if they see it, something in a plan, it will affect how they address or engineer something. I worked in a company where their landmarks commission landmarked part of their main street just because it was slated for reconstruction in 5 years. The DOT's plan to reconstruct was all modern. But it was a historic area, but it wasn't a district. So once it was accepted on the register, they came in with different lighting, different street components, more sidewalks, retaining walls, and they just followed it because that's what they do,
That's the rules.
right? But also what's really important, if it's in this plan and we're going for a grant, even if it's just 1 or 2 lines. A lot of times, communities that don't have it in their plans won't get the grant. But if it's in here, that grant funds are like, oh yeah, the city always wanted to do it, they just need the money to do it. And so here we're gonna.
So every idea you guys have, you're trying to put as much in there as
Well,
possible.
You throw an
Not too
Amtrak in
much,
there,
right.
you definitely wanna say that in your plan, because that's gonna be huge cost. From so many different sources, and having it in the plan just gives us an advantage to. Communities who don't. have it.
Give it the experience to the residents. The people that use. it.
Possibly, But yeah. So.
What about number 5 on this one, establish new commercial nodes with neighborhoods? Speaking of controversial, I can see that it's stirring up some. Are we talking more like neighborhood center in terms of like doing that type of zoning, or is there something different?
It would be probably, it could be both, but it's typically making a zoning code, like right now, we do allow commercial in residential neighborhoods. They have to be on corners, it can't be greater than 2,500 square feet, and you need to get approval for them. A lot of people know it, well, a lot of people utilize it, but we have some, so
Like
like
12th and 9th.
Ace Champion did exactly that. He took a corner property in a neighborhood. It was
For the.
thankfully a
Jackson,
commercial
yeah.
property already that had been converted to a
Right.
home. They just blacked out the windows, the storefront windows. So he brought it back to what it was.
Was not Big Red
Uh,
Alone.
Was.
Yeah, it was not Big Red Alone. That was the
So-
original location.
Yeah.
So it can be something like that, as simple as zoning, or a district can be created, say, you have a neighborhood commercial district, boom. I mean, we have a neighborhood commercial zoning, and you just own those properties for it.
On the future land use map, there are quite a few intersections within neighborhoods that are either established or soon to be established. That we call for just like a mixed use or commercial on the corners. So that way we're creating more. That neighborhood feel where you don't have to get in your car to drive to go get a gallon of milk. Walk to or to whatever is gonna be there.
It's probably culture.
It's like,
Right, it's something.
Well, that is.
It's like you're-
Let's say 7-Eleven, it doesn't have the phones.
Yes, I hate that.
No, we don't have this up here, but. And that is important not only for infill areas that are being redeveloped or neighborhoods that exist, kind of going back to that classic urbanism. But for new neighborhoods, I mean, when we did our outreach, it was really interesting to hear people say, well. I want to be able to walk to get milk, or I want to be able to be within easy access, not car access to, general conveniences. Now, maybe 10 minutes later, they said, well, I don't want anything with single family near me. So they're kind of fighting themselves with that argument. But you can see that that is a desire. And so that's kind of what we put in here as commercial nodes.
And I think that's what I'm getting at, is we've seen try to rezone residential to commercial, we're gonna have a problem. But if we have intent and it either is zoned initially, or we do something district or whatever prior to a development, I think it's gonna be more successful than that. So it sounds like that's what the intent is.
It is, but also the intent in this plan too is if somebody's got a commercial node corner or an existing one, let's say. And they want to change it to residential, the planning commission might want to say, no.
Not.
We want this to be
right.
commercial,
Okay.
we want that assistance, we want that service.
Right.
And those things really trend with the times, so. In 2000, commercial was hot, 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 everybody was building everywhere. Now it's residential, I mean, you'd think we need more, we do, but residential is cheaper to build, a higher return on investment. So commercial areas that are depressed right now because commercial is down with Amazon and the economy. Those are big targets for multifamily developers. Big parking lot, there's no trees to clear. Hey,
Right.
I'll put up a bunch of units, not
It's not a lot of
necessarily bad.
remediation.
I think it's a great idea in locations, but you don't want whole commercial areas to get swept over by just strict residential. I mean, we've been pushing the vertical mixed use for 20 years with limited success. But there's horizontal mixed use, there's distance separation.
I feel like the
Say-
verticals, we're finally getting onto it. I think I see all the
Good
developments
stuff.
at Schwaben right now that's going on and all the stuff is, oh,
Yeah,
I mean, tallish for Green Bay.
right, with commercial on the first
Right.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty successful in Schwaben with that. They have some partners. Brown County Library went into the first floor of a building next to Target. So that's a
Okay.
public-private partnership, but a
Huh.
commercial and active use, so it is really great. But I was kind of surprised, like when Nova came in, when Newland came in for the Adams Street lot. One of the first things I think they told us was, we want the Washington Corner to be a restaurant. And we're like, yeah, that's what our core, that's what we want to
Yeah.
do. They're like, oh, okay, great.
They probably was looking at the area too. I mean, that's where
Washington
restaurant has
Street
been
is,
there.
yeah.
I mean, the Adams Street has all those restaurants that are wildly successful at the Adams, right?
Right.
Yeah, as well as successful. I mean,
Well,
that would
and-
make sense from a business standpoint.
It's for their tenants as well. When you put in upper end units, you want to upper end restaurant.
There's gonna be a.
They have plenty of those in town. We don't know, I don't think they know yet, but. And that is one thing downtown has, an advantage over, I would say almost any place else. We have a great amount of eateries here, with variety and really good quality. Whole city does though, and we are a foodie city.
And they're doing great.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Actually, that's the way we also have for the conversation.
Uh-oh.
A missing area disease out of my home.
There you go.
Can I move on to number 11?
Certainly.
It calls out develop a marina district, but doesn't say where. I can only assume we're talking about Bay Beach area.
We're west of it.
West, okay.
Yeah, sort of where the two marinas are located.
So why are we being specific?
Because that's where the two marinas currently exist, so, but they've grown organically, so there's one marina that's kind of just west of the. Wastewater station,
Yep.
and then there's another one right on the mouth, that is kind of surrounded by industrial
Yeah.
uses. But. The market right now organically, that area is starting to get, not convention center, but like a. Like a wedding hall, there's a brewery there now, there's a restaurant there now, so just the business pressure is saying, hey, we wanna be here.
There, yeah.
And so it's really kind of a difficult transition with having
So much.
medium industrial with now these congregate uses. Of course, we don't wanna say no to them, because that's great, and we kind of really wanna capitalize on that. So you really need to do a master plan to figure out how do these things work together. So it's not saying do a new marina, it's saying, look at what you got and plan, no,
Oh, this
Okay.
is a master plan for them.
That
Right.
makes more
for the
sense.
consumer.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, which,
It's all about-
thank you. It is.
People are good, and they're like, I'm not in jail. That's all down there.
Pardon me?
Boat landing, being included with that, I mean.
Yeah, well, so most marinas have a launch.
Yeah, the marinas do, but doesn't the city have just the boat landing, or is that?
I think we have a boat landing up there, but then there's a marina like right.
Okay, so. It could incorporate. that.
Yeah,
well,
clubs is
so
part of
it's a
that.
private marina, but it's still
It's there.
Okay.
And then the public marina is right there as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff in here isn't necessarily, after you think about it for a couple seconds, not rocket science, it's like, oh yeah, we should probably have a marina. Just nobody kind of thought about it, it's, but
Right.
as it's developing organically, not necessarily developing very well, yeah. And a lot of conflicts.
Got it.
So again, and that area is perfect, so we have people coming in saying, hey, I wanna build some warehousing, I wanna be by this other warehouse. And it's like, well, oh, no, this, our plan right now shows it as, industrial, so, yep, we would
Right.
support it, we support the zone changes,
But we're probably looking for something a little bit different.
looking to change that. Especially with the fact that, moving the coal piles to the other side, we really want to focus on the marina area and how do you buffer that and capitalize on the river itself. Hopefully, the lake plan. Well, actually, it's south of where the polling plant was, but it's in that industrial corridor up there. The west side north of Mather, but even more north than that, is really industrial.
Yeah, no, it's all tall.
Yeah.
Wires
piles,
and-
stacks.
Yep.
So that's kind of, put it over there, very contaminated, it's, everybody's used to that.
It's closer to.
Well, actually, it's probably about the same distance, just the other way.
Yeah, it really is, you're right.
I'm a little surprised there's been no comments on the water tax.
I'm just.
Okay, I'm just really confused. about
I'm
it.
confused why it's on the top 23 list.
Right,
Well, I
right.
threw it on this top 23 list because it was unique and really.
Where are we going? Where are there places to go on, where, I mean, where are we bringing people from A to B?
Better
What- I mean, what, is that?
You
Yeah,
go
or
from-
the Barleys.
you go from the,
Sorry, you're right, I should be thinking.
you go from the marina to the really,
That's
the
the
really
cool
cool future
Right.
developed
Ooh.
Georgia Pacific site, down over to the Riverwalk.
But the
Down-
railroad museum.
Well, and
Yeah.
you can continue outside of the community as well, down to Fox Harbor and the redevelopment that's gonna be one Astor 1.
That
And
boat,
continue down to Alloway and Pier and then back up the
The
other.
lots.
that boat that was in De Pere, is that gone? Does that still exist?
That-
Me and Mary Beth took, oh, okay, cause I was like, Mary Beth took me, the two of us took with a bunch of city people, took
I
that
think
boat
the,
trip.
I think the woman who was running that got ill. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I moved in, I was the Apache label, was that? it?
Yeah,
Fox
yeah,
City was different, this was
Oh,
like,
was it?
two-
Well-
it was all glass, it
Right.
was not. Fox
we
City.
actually did we did I was working in Oshkosh, we did like a conference here and we did it on that.
Oh, you did
We
not.
went up and down the river, all the communities did presentations.
I'm not even sure I was on the planning commission when I went on that with Mary.
Oh, no.
He was chair time.
Um,
I've
but,
seen a lot of boats out of it.
but again, water taxis, they're pretty successful in Milwaukee. I think they're private. I don't think they're even public taxis. I don't know, does Chicago have any of those water taxis? No?
Oh, and body, yeah, they've got all kinds of boat rentals that
Tons of
you
them?
can do, I feel
Yes,
like.
you won't have hot tubs, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, hot tubs, like, yes.
Well, we have the.
You know what, can you put that in there? Can we get some
Hot tubs?
boat, water taxis with?
I can put your name with it.
We have the more tourist oriented
Pretty much.
ones, but then we have a true water taxi. I don't know what the price is today, but it's like a fare. There's no narration, no tour. You literally get on.
It's on and off.
Like a taxi.
Well, yeah, and again, as our waterfront develops and there's focus on the
There's stuff to look
waterfront,
at.
quite a bit of focus on the waterfront, it could become much more feasible than you think. There's a
Yeah.
modest fare.
During events, especially.
Well, no, honestly,
during
it's like,
events.
if it's
Or-
a 45-minute trip and you're just going, I mean,
One-
to see the backs of one of those houses that you only see if you're on the trails, I mean.
Yeah, so that's, to answer your question, that's why I ended up here, because it was
Okay.
unique.
You wanted us to talk about it?
Well, I think it's kind of cool, so I'm like, all right.
That's something like at the gap where we don't have any rights. Because our bridges are constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't have to pull the price.
Use it in a certain.
But all those little teeny amenities that you have on the waterfront really don't help to do it all the time. I always say you can build a river walk or a boardwalk, and if you don't program it. You can go once or twice and probably not go back unless you're meditating or doing something
Yeah.
out there specific. But throw a couple mines out there. Nobody likes
Right.
mines, but throw a couple mines out there. And I'm just gonna go.
Mines?
jump.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Alright.
It's an excuse to be.
Look at that city deck, it's such an.
I think we need to take an action here.
Maybe Cheryl likes mine.
Oh, you did.
Mines are
Good mine.
Yeah, we're blocking, you have to reclaim, I'm not saying it's.
You got that.
Okay, hold on, let's back together here.
Okay, alright.
I'm moving to approve. What do we need to do condition wise?
You would approve a resolution with the recommendations, as recorded by staff.
Okay.
And that's that.
We haven't made any actual changes or anything other than that one. East Mason activity, or do we even make a? Right,
Some changes, so these recommendations
So the
will go
recommendation
through
change.
and then we will all look at it and see how it best fits inside the plan. So they don't have to be specific, like change this word to this word, even if it's a concept, I mean, Jacob, Josh and our staff will just kind of.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And these guys know this plan very well. I'm surprised. You give Jacob a comment and in 10 minutes, he'll have something adjusted. It's crazy.
Please, I.
5 minutes, okay.
All right.
It'll
Move
take
to
me 5
approve
minutes.
with staff's notated recommendation. Is that fair?
Yep.
Sure.
Second.
All right. Okay, so we've got a motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Vinsky. Do we have any further discussion? Alrighty then, I guess we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And from the city council, the 16th, is that the next?
There'll be a workshop on the 16th,
Okay,
and then this will be going October. We'll see what happens at the workshop, right? But the next council meeting after that would be October 7th. So it'll be on the plan commission report, but
where is this going next?
council on the 16th for
Council on the 16th.
workshop first, and then potential action, public hearing. Follow
But then October 7th is the.
September 16th and then October 7th, it would go back.
Okay.
There's a 30-day statute required 30-day gap between the two public hearings. So from this one,
So council's not acting on this.
no, they're not, it'll be in a report from the plan commission, but there's because you talked about it, so it's gotta be in the report. But there's a 30-day wait, so the next one would have been October 7th. But it's really up to that point. I mean, you can dig around in here, we can take a month to look it over, we can have special workshops. I really tried to get like a longer, 2 or 3 hours thing for the council, but
But then
Harry-
we'll give council more time if they're not approving it, so.
right, and the council will get at the workshop a presentation very similar to this.
Right.
Maybe refined lists that are a little bit easier to understand. So if they said, hey, we want to have another workshop in 2 weeks,
Right.
we're great, that's fine.
Tell them we said move.
I mean, obviously, we would love to have it adopted right away, but I worked for some communities where it's taken months to get through the council.
Stop saying that out loud.
It's my idea. They, not me. I said, tell them we said go. And they said, sometime.
I just want everybody to be happy with their product.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so, yeah, look at you moving around. Okay,
Right.
so the date of the next meeting is Monday, September 8th, which be all in a few days, I
Yeah.
guess.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
The motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.